Baron Productions presents Lot number 249 by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Part 2, The Ways of Nature. It was the day of Hasty's rowing match, and a stream of people were making their way down to the banks of the river to watch. A May sun was shining, and the yellow path was barred with the black shadows of the tall elm trees. Abercrombie Smith, once an expert oarsman, chose his position on the bank, where he knew that the struggle, if there were a struggle, would come.
Now then, Hasty, let's see all those hours of practice you put in pay off. That's the starting gun. There they go. He's in front. Go on, Hasty. Pull hard. Your boat's already in the lead.
I say, Smith, is that you?
Lee. Hello. What's the matter?
I need to speak to you, old boy. Privately. Do you mind?
Can't it wait? I'm watching the boat race here. My friend's in first place.
It shouldn't take long.
Oh, very well.
Thank you. Here, let's go into those trees further up the bank. We shan't be overheard there.
As you wish. Now, what is it?
I thought you'd like to know. I'm moving out of our apartments.
Ah, I did wonder.
It's all right, I've got a cottage lined up. Sharing with Harrington of King's College. Little den of a place, but it is pleasant to work in during the summer months, he says.
Fair enough. You couldn't have told me this after the race.
And that's not my point. And what I wanted to say is, you should change rooms as well, and straight away.
What? Why? I mean, I know you and Bellingham don't see eye to eye anymore, but...
Don't see eye to eye? Damn it, Smith, it's far more serious than that.
Well, what then?
I can't say. That's the worst of it. I'm under a solemn promise not to reveal anything. But I may go so far as to tell you that I don't think Bellingham is a very safe man to live near. In fact, I'd stay away from the old college grounds entirely.
Not safe? What do you mean?
Just take my advice, Smith. He's a horrible chap. That's the only word for him. I've had doubts about him ever since that night he fainted. And then I taxed him today, and he told me things that made my hair rise, things he wanted me to share in with him. I'm not straight-laced, but I am a clergyman's son, and there are some things which I think are quite beyond the pale. I only thank God that I found him out before it was too late, before little Evelyn took him for a husband.
This is all very fine, Lee, but either you're saying too much or too little. What things? What did he want you to share then?
I told you, I cannot say. I can only warn you that...
If there is reason to warn me, then tell me the whole truth. No promise can bind a man who knows that harm is coming. If I see a rascal about to blow a place up with dynamite, no pledge will stand in my way of preventing him.
But I can't prevent him. All I can do is beg you to change your rooms. You're in danger where you are.
Perhaps I know more than you think. I've observed things myself lately. I know that someone else shares Bellingham's rooms.
You know, then?
Well, I've not yet seen who it is. A woman, I expect.
If only it were.
Well, if not a woman, then who is it?
I can't. Just...
Well, anyhow, it's not likely that I should allow myself to be frightened out of rooms which suit me very nicely. It would be a little too feeble for me to move out all of my belongings because you say that Bellingham might in some unexplained way do me harm. I think I'll just take my chance and stay where I am. Now, please excuse me, I must get back to the race.
Later that evening, Smith prepared for his usual stroll across campus to the house of Dr. Peterson, a friend of his family in Oxford.
Well, that's one of Bellingham's books on the desk there. I suppose I'd better return it before I go out.
Taking the book, he walked downstairs and knocked at his neighbour's door.
No answer. It's open. Good, I won't have to see him then.
The lamp was turned half down, but Smith could see the details of the room plainly enough. It was all much as he had seen it before. The animal-headed gods, the hanging crocodile, and the desk littered over with papers and dried leaves.
I'll just place the book here on the table. There's the mummy's case against the wall. Horrible thing, that mummy. I really can't understand how he can... Just a moment. The thing's not in its case. Well, where is it then? Not here on the table. Not over by the... Well, of course, he might have taken it somewhere for academic reasons, I suppose. But why take the mummy and not the sarcophagus? Someone's outside. I'd better go.
The spiral stair was as black as pitch, and Smith was slowly making his way down its irregular steps when he was suddenly conscious that someone had passed him in the darkness.
Hello? Who's there, please?
There was a faint sound, a whiff of air, a light brushing past his elbow, but so slight he could scarcely be certain of it.
Is that you, Styles?
There was no answer, and all was still behind him.
Nothing. And yet I could have sworn.
He emerged into the night air, still turning the matter over in his head.
Smith! Smith, is it you?
Hello, Hasty. What's...
For God's sake, come at once! Young Lee's drowned.
He's what?
Down by his cottage. Come along at once. There may be life in him.
Have you brandy?
No.
Wait here, I'll bring some. There's a flask on my table.
Smith bounded up the stairs, taking 3 at a time, seized the flask, and was rushing down with it when, as he passed Bellingham's room, his eyes fell upon something which left him gasping and staring upon the landing.
My God.
The door, which he had closed behind him, was now open, and right in front of him, with the lamplight shining upon it, was the mummy case.
But it was definitely empty before. I know it was.
Now it framed the lank body of its horrible occupant, who stood grim and stark, with his black shriveled face towards the door. The form was lifeless and inert, but it seemed to Smith, as he gazed, that there still lingered a lurid spark of vitality, some faint sign of consciousness in the little eyes, which lurked in the depths of the hollow sockets.
What hell is in this place? What hell am I living alongside?
Smith! Smith, are you coming?
Sorry, Hasty. I'm here.
It's life and death, you know. Come on, the faster we get there, the better.
Neck and neck they dashed through the darkness, and did not pull up until, panting and spent, they had reached the little cottage by the river. Young Lee, limp and dripping like a broken water plant, was stretched upon the sofa, the green scum of the river upon his black hair, and a fringe of white foam upon his leaden-hued lips.
Lee?
I think there's life in him. Hasty, put your watch glass to his lips. Yes, there's breath on it, see? He's alive.
Oh, thank heavens.
Now, help me position him, and we'll bring him round.
For 10 minutes they worked in silence, inflating and depressing the chest of the unconscious man. Then a shiver ran through his body, his lips trembled, and he opened his eyes.
What happened? Smith? Hasty?
That's right, old chap. Wake up now, you've frightened us quite enough.
Here, have some brandy.
Oh, thank you. Now, what was... Oh, yes, I remember now. I've been in the water. Heavens, what a fright I got.
You've got a fright? I'm the one who had to pull you out. You're lucky I was nearby.
You saw me go in, then?
I heard you scream and a splash. I ran down to the river as fast as I could. How did you fall in?
I didn't fall in.
How then?
I was thrown in. I was standing by the bank and something from behind picked me up like a feather and hurled me in. I heard nothing and I saw nothing, but I know what it was for all that.
So do I, my friend, so do I.
Oh, you've learned then?
Yes, and I begin to think that I shall take your advice and find a new place to live.
What the deuce are you fellows talking about?
But neither man answered Hasty's question. Indeed, Smith found himself unable to voice the monstrous fears in his heart as the two of them returned to campus some time afterwards. What had started as a dim suspicion, a vague, fantastic idea, had suddenly taken form and stood out in his mind as a grim fact, a thing not to be denied.
And yet, how monstrous it is. How unheard of. How entirely beyond all bounds of human experience. An impartial judge, or even Hasty if I told him, would simply say that my eyes had deceived me, that the mummy had been there the whole time, that young Lee had tumbled into the river, as any other man might, and that a blue pill was the best thing for a disordered liver. I'd say as much myself in his position. And yet I'll swear that Bellingham is a murderer at heart, and he wields a weapon such as no one else has ever used in all the grim history of crime.
Smith, good evening. Back from a nighttime stroll?
You could say that.
Won't you come in?
No, thank you.
No? You're busy as ever? I wanted to ask you about Lee. I was sorry to hear that something was amiss with him.
You'll be sorrier still to hear that Monkhouse Lee is doing very well and is out of danger. Your hellish tricks have not come off this time.
My dear Smith, whatever do you mean? You're not implying that I had something to do with Lee's accident?
Indeed I was, Master Bellingham. You and that bag of bones in the sarcophagus behind you. I tell you what, they might have given up burning folk like you, but we still keep a hangman. And by God, if any man in this college meets his death while you are here, I'll see you caught for it, and if you don't swing at the end of a rope, it won't be my fault.
You're a raving lunatic.
All right, you just remember what I say, and you'll find that I'm better than my word.
The next day, Smith stuck fast to his work, not emerging from his study lest he should hear from his neighbour again. But in the evening he determined to visit his friend Dr. Peterson, as he had intended the night before.
A good walk and a friendly chat will be just the thing for my jangled nerves.
Bellingham's door was shut as he passed on the stairs, but glancing back when he was some distance from the building, he saw his neighbour's head at the window, outlined against the lamplight, his face pressed apparently against the glass as he gazed out into the darkness.
I wonder what he's staring at. Surely he can't see me in this light. I'll say this, it already feels better to be away from all contact with him, even if it is only for a few hours.
It was a lonely and little-used road which led to his friend's house. Early as it was, Smith did not meet a single soul upon his way. The half-moon lay in the west between two Gothic pinnacles, and threw upon the silvered street an eerie shadow from the buildings above. At length he caught sight of the cosy red light from the windows of Peterson's house in the distance.
Almost there. I shall be glad to get indoors again.
Suddenly he heard a soft noise back along the road where he'd been.
Something's coming this way. There, in the shadows near the hedge. I can see it. Is it a dog? No, too big. It looks like a human figure. Could it be... My God!
Out of the darkness he had a sudden glimpse of a scraggy neck and of two eyes that will ever haunt his dreams.
It can't be. My God, it is. Run, Smith. Run for your damn life.
Terror in his face, he bolted along the avenue.
Damn it, the thing's keeping up with me. There are the lights. Peterson's house. If I can just get there. Faster. Faster. Come on. Through the gate. The creature's almost at your heels, you fool. Up the stone pathway towards the door. Nearly there. Backward glance. Oh God almighty, it's bounding like a tiger. Eyes blazing in its skull. One stringy arm thrown outwards. In a moment it'll be on top of me. I can almost feel the rotting hands closing around my throat, squeezing, choking the life out of me. And the last thing I know in this world will be its terrible putrefying breath. Oh, thank God, the door's ajar. Get inside, quick!
Smith, my goodness, what's the matter?
Peterson?
Well, you're as white as cheese. Here, come and sit down.
Don't have any brandy, do you?
Of course. Here, have another. Looks like you need it.
Thank you.
Now, what in the world's frightened you?
I am my own man again now, but I was never so unmanned before in my life. With your leave, Peterson, I will sleep here tonight. I don't think I could face that road again except by daylight. It's weak, I know, but I can't help it.
Certainly, if you wish. I'll tell Mrs. Burnley to make up the spare bed. But what...
Come with me to the window that overlooks the door.
They went up to the window of the upper hall, from which they could look down upon the approach to the house. The drive and the fields on either side lay quiet and still, bathed in the peaceful moonlight.
There, look, see? In the curve of the road beyond your gate.
You needn't pinch my arm off. I can see all right. It looks like there's a man there, or I should say, a man rather thin for any man I've seen. And tall, very tall. But what of him? And what of yourself? You're still shaking like an aspen leaf.
Peterson, I have been within hand grip of the devil tonight. But come down to your study, and I shall tell you the full story.
He did so, Under the cheery lamplight, with another glass of brandy on the table beside him and the flushed face of his friend in front, he narrated, in their order, all the events which had led up to his horrible experience that night.
I never heard of such a thing in my life. Never. But the main point seemed to me to be clear enough. This fellow Bellingham in his Eastern studies has got hold of some infernal secret by which a mummy, or possibly only this particular mummy, can be temporarily brought to life. He was trying this disgusting business on the night when he fainted. No doubt the sight of the creature moving had shaken his nerve, even though he'd expected it.
Indeed. But he's obviously overcome his weakness since then, as now he's using it against anyone toward whom he holds a grudge. It's the merest chance that he has not 3 murders upon his soul.
But how could such a thing as this stride about the streets of Oxford, even at night, without being seen?
It has been seen, but not for what it is. There's quite a scare in the town about an escaped ape. Now we know why.
So, young Smith, the question becomes, what will you do now?
Aye, there's the rub. By rights, Bellingham should be held to account for his atrocities.
Upon what evidence? Nothing has happened to you, or your companions, that can't be explained away by a more natural-sounding argument.
What do you mean?
Say you do manage to get past that creature and have Bellingham arrested. His lawyer laughs your testimony out of court on grounds of absurdity. Meanwhile, he's telling the judge how Norton was garroted by an unknown assailant, your friend Lee tripped into the river, and that you got scared out of your wits by some gaunt, half-famished, homeless person who came after you for some food.
But
it's the more solid reasoning, and you know it.
You're right, Peterson, I know you are.
So, what will you do?
Have another brandy, and then sleep. And tomorrow, I take matters into my own hands.
Yes, hello, who's... Ah, Smith, Hasty. Make yourself at home, please. How can I...
No more pretense, Bellingham.
We're here to put an end to your tricks, old boy.
Indeed.
Indeed. Now, I see you've a carving knife on that desk. Take it and cut up that mummy.
Well, is that it? Not terribly convincing, my friends. Perhaps you should try more...
Does this convince you, then?
Bellingham gasped as Smith withdrew a revolver from his coat and pointed it between his enemy's eyes.
They tell me that the law can't touch you, but I have a law that will set matters straight. And if you don't destroy that monstrous thing, I swear by the God who made me that I will put a bullet through your brain.
You would murder me?
Why so surprised? You couldn't imagine you're the only one capable of wielding the power of life and death. Do it. Now.
This is mere madness.
Cut it up and burn it.
I will do no such thing.
I won't ask again, Bellingham.
All right, I'll do it.
In frantic haste, he caught up the knife and hacked at the figure of the mummy, ever glancing round to see the eye and the weapon of his terrible visitor bent upon him. The creature crackled and snapped under every stab of the keen blade. A thick yellow dust rose up from it. Suddenly, with a rending crack, its backbone snapped asunder, and it fell, a brown heap of sprawling limbs upon the floor.
Now, into the fire.
The flames leaped and roared as the dried limbs were piled upon them. A thick, fat smoke oozed out from the fire, and a heavy smell of burned flesh and singed hair filled the room. In a quarter of an hour, a few charred and brittle sticks were all that was left of Lot 249.
Perhaps this will satisfy you.
Not quite. Hasty, check the top drawer of the desk, if you please. I think you'll find a certain scroll in there.
Right you are, Smith.
What? No! Leave that alone!
Here it is. Ancient Egyptian magic, I presume.
Something like that. Chuck it on the fire, would you?
No, don't burn that! Man, you don't know what you do. Look here, Smith. I'll share the knowledge with you. I'll teach you all that is in it. Or I'll stay. Let me hold a copy of it before you burn it.
Hasty, now.
No!
Hold him back, Hasty. There. Nothing but ash. Now, Master B, I think I have pretty well drawn your teeth. You'll hear from me again, if you return to your old ways.
The next morning, Smith kept to his apartments, But descending the stairs that afternoon, he found Bellingham's door was ajar once again, and this time, when he looked through the crack,
Nothing. Everything's gone.
all of Bellingham's possessions, the ancient statues, the sarcophagus, even the furniture had been taken away.
As if he never existed.
Ah. Oh, well, Master Smith.
Styles, do you know what happened to...
Master Bellingham packed up and left this morning. Said he was heading back out to the Soudan. Well, good riddance to him in my book.
You're not wrong, Styles. And I'd like to think that's the last we'll see of him too. But if there's one thing I've learnt these last few days, is that the wisdom of men is small, and the ways of nature are strange. And who shall put a bound to the dark things which may be found by those who seek for them?
Sounds like you could use a drink if you ask me, sir.
Lot number 249 featured the voices of Daniel Wilmot as Abercrombie Smith, Lee Gemmell as Edward Bellingham and the Mummy, Paul Toy as Hasty, Matt Patterson as Monkhouse Lee, Stephen Mawson as Styles and Dr. Peterson, and Natalie Rowe as the narrator. The script was based on the story by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, adapted to radio by Daniel Wilmot, and produced by Baron Productions.